Alright, making a video. Alright, was going to be a response video kind of to My Misery Me and Wayward Horizons, sort of just talking about, suicide and, well, not really suicide, well, My Misery Me is talking about dying, just getting out of here, getting done, being done, finishing, and doing it with some sort of grace, or doing it in some sort of, reasonable way, sensible, scientific, clinical, yeah. And anyway, in Wayward Horizons, it was talking about anti-natalism, but in the context of suffering and just, so that always kind of lends you to this idea of dying. But it's really not the subject of it has the futility element in the sense that you have to justify existence with some sort of purpose, and there really isn't a purpose, so technically, if there's one horribly miserable person on Earth, that's enough to say it's not a game worth playing. Technically. These are sort of important words, so I wrote down some words. Anyway, so then I was jumping around. I was, Conference Board did a video on imagination, and I was thinking about my imagination. I wasn't even thinking about my imagination. I just started imagining. And this video was just a little bit, and so my brain just started wandering in the middle of his discussion of imagination, which was kind of funny. And I was just sort of thinking, because of My Misery Me's video, I was just sort of thinking about my internal angst and my difficulties, and I was just sort of thinking, remembering back to when I was a kid, and when it just started to fall apart in terms of, life just got harder and harder to accept. It didn't get easier and easier as they were telling me it was going to get. It just seemed to get harder and harder and harder and more difficult. I remember Howard Hughes, and I found him such a troubling example. He was like an icon of what happens to a human being kind of thing. And I just saw him as my future. Not that I'd be a billionaire, but just that I would end up so completely neurotic. And that's, if you know anything about Howard Hughes, he's a very dynamic individual, very aggressively living, test pilot, got into crazy airplanes and flew them. Really bold, aggressive, all this kind of stuff. And he got really rich, had all the women and all this stuff, produced movies, did all kinds of interesting things. Probably got a few venereal diseases, and I think it scared the hell out of him. He saw his mortality in it. He saw life as dangerous. And he became a recluse, a preposterous recluse. Well, a recluse that none of us could afford to be because we're not billionaires. But I mean, just not insanely. I mean, it's not a fair word. But in a sense, insanely risk-averse. And so he just bubbled himself off from the world and found his own internet, so to speak, his own way of dealing with the world in some sort of way that would, where he didn't have to touch it. He didn't have to get any of the ick on it, the ick of life, the reality of it. He didn't have to live in that world anymore. And so anyway, I mean, I just saw in myself some capacity that I was just moving in that direction. I really sort of have, in a way. I've stabilized my anxiety disorder, and I've kind of found a balance that's livable and survivable. But I'm incredibly fragile in terms of my capacity to, at any moment that you sort of feel like you're on the Poeskian cliff, and at any moment that the floor is going to start talking to me, and things are going to slip away. So I've found a way to just keep that at bay. This boogeyman of just rotting in despair and an inability to grip anything, to hold on to anything here, that keeps you in the game, any kind of hunger. And so that's part of what I wanted to get to too. So anyway, that got longer than I wanted it to, but it's sort of an interesting imagining, just as an imagining of the idea that there are you can only spend so much time in fantasy or in contemplation of lives you would live. And this was something I used to do when I was a kid all the time. To go to sleep at night, it's not even to go to sleep, I don't think. I don't think I was using it as a mechanism to wind me down. But in a way, it might have worked that way, because I kind of wind myself out of my life and started imagining other people's lives. And that always tended to get kind of dark, because you would imagine people in desperate circumstances, something you heard on the news, some Vietnam soldier. And I would imagine, okay, I saw him on the stretcher, and I'm thinking about, well, what happens to him next? And he has a surgery, and he gets an infection. you know, and he's horribly sick, and 105-degree temperature, and blah, 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 and then his leg has to be amputated, and, you know, after months of barely keeping it alive, and it's just so discouraging because he's a football player, and so now he has to find a new life, and he gets some disability payment, and he goes this, and that, you know, and my brain would just go through the motions of imagining having to live out his life and saying, could I find something rewarding in that? Could I bend that into something that I could make sense of? Because you see so many people's lives and you say, God, that life is embarrassing. It's disgusting. It's not even that I wouldn't wear that color. You know, they wear colors I wouldn't even wear. You're just like, man, they're fat and they're in spandex. They're disgusting. They got, you know, fucking giant mole wart on their forehead or something, and you're just like, why would I do that? I mean, it doesn't seem like this is what I would do. I'd do something about it. I'd put some makeup on that or something, you know, smooth that over a little. You know, it just doesn't seem, you know, you're just like, I can't even imagine being that person. They're so fucking some other organism or something. They're some other kind of, like, they're octopus people or something, and that's why they don't notice. I mean, I'm just, like, stunned at the fact that I can't even imagine being them because they are so fucking bizarre. And I often think that way about poor people. I'm just like, well, how can poor people not know they're poor? How can they not know their life is shit? How can they, you know, how can they not figure out that they really don't want to have kids? I mean, man, my brain just, man, what the fuck, bitch? You know. Yeah, I just, you know, sorry. You know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. You know, I'll sentence my kid to some of this fun. What? You know, wow. You gotta have a really small reptilian brain to be thinking that way. So, yeah, it's very hard to make your brain smaller, you know. I mean, you can sort of try to imagine making your brain bigger and making yourself smarter, but it's almost hard to make your brain dumber. Like, let's see if I can imagine forgetting that 2 + 2 = 4. It's really hard to do that kind of stuff. So anyway, so then I ended up watching this stupid guy talking about objectivity. I don't really care for this guy much anyway, but I'm you and you are me. And it's kind of a snarky commenter. But just an awful video. I mean, I should go play the video. I'll see how much time I got. You know, he's responding to objectivity and ultimate reality. You know, yeah, unfortunately I don't do searches on these words, but maybe I should. Is that, you know, this was just a horrid video, and I'm disappointed I didn't see it. But anyway, so I'll just play this ending bit. But I mean, it's just, you know, he's even reducing this so you can't even think that there's an objective procedure. Like you'd have some kind of rational procedure for mixing cement or something, and he'd say that's not objective. Like you find some perfect way to mix cement. It always works out. You mix it this way, and it always comes out cement in the end. It doesn't come out stuff that crumbles or rots or breaks. It's a reliable procedure. And he even uses the word procedure in his video and about EMFs or something and showing up at the scene, and they're not being objective because they can't be objective and blah, blah, blah. But they're trying to be. They're trying to be methodical and careful and, you know, follow the proven procedure of, you know, calm people down, take control of a situation. These are reliable procedures. They're dependable. They've been practiced over and over and over again that this will calm somebody down, you know. And it's just, what the hell? You know, it's objective because it's clinical, it's researched, it's proven, it's demonstrated. And there's no self-interest, there's no bias corrupting it. I mean, that's the definition of objective, is that you don't have a whole lot of bias corrupting it. It's a sensible, rational, disciplined approach. And no one's arguing that somebody's going to be able to walk into any kind of situation and be completely objective. Of course they're not. But that's not the argument about objectivity. So this video is just obnoxious. So anyway, listen to this shit, though. This is just amazing shit.
Is this big, beautiful, improvisational, cosmic ballet. No one thing, no one part of it holds center stage. No one way of thinking trumps any other way of thinking.
I mean, what the hell is that? Oh, there's no such thing as profoundly stupid, fucktarded, retarded, cost ineffective, moronic, If I way of think and I say, I'll go blow up the fucking marathon, that's not fucktarded or stupid. I'll just blow up some little kids and some runners and some other people and somehow blame them because the United States of America sucks ass. Oh, it's their fault. Even if they voted for Jimmy Carter or whatever. You know, even if they sent birthday presents to Khrushchev and Castro, I'll blow their legs off. How fuck do I care? So that's not fucktarded. That's any way of thinking is okay, it's super cool. There's no such thing as rational or connected to reality or sensible. I mean, come on. I mean, jeez. I mean, all this mushy bullshit. You sit there and say this shit in a video like this makes any goddamn sense? This political correct, phantasmagorical pussy shit? I mean, it's absolute crap. There's rational, there's connected to the facts, and there's disconnected from the facts. Those are certain fucking important distinctions, fucktard. Oh, fuck.
Objectivity, if there even is such a thing, doesn't...
I mean, what is this? Again, we know what these words mean. We know what subjective means in the sense that you have a bias. You have a personal interest. You're going to gain. So you know, if you get into politics or something, you help a certain kind of business, well, you've obviously helped it because you're getting a payoff or a cut, or one of your kids might get employed there. And so that's called a bias. That means that you didn't make an objective decision like which company is the best for the United States government. What do the people of the United States deserve? They deserve the best producer of a certain product at the best price. That's the standard. That's the procedure. We certainly know what the objective decision looks like, and we know what the subjective decision looks like. The subjective decision has a bunch of subjective personal interest polluting it. The objective decision has, oh, here's the procedure. Well, okay, can they reliably produce a product? Do they have a record of producing things at the cost they get, not going over expenses? Do they have a record of treating their employees right? What's the procedure for defining who's the best, who's most likely to produce the product? And you get an objective, clinical, rational answer versus an answer polluted by a personal interest. You can't tell the difference between those two things? You fucked hard? Well, that's what these words mean. That's what objective and subjective mean, okay? They have meaning. You're just taking the meaning out of goddamn words so we can't even speak language anymore, so you can neutralize any kind of oppressive force that might someday say, you're a fucking asshole.
Trump subjectivity and vice versa. Just about any aspect of living or dying, any aspect of the universe at all, one thing is not more important than the other.
Again, how does anyone make any sense out of that? Oh, a cure for malaria is no more important than having a 59 millionth color for cupcake icing. Those two things are just as important. If we're going to spend money on something, we ought to go after that 54th million color for cupcake icing. Just as a cure for malaria. So who cares? Nothing's more important than anything else. Nothing's more sensible or rational. Nothing's more appropriate to the circumstance. No, just make some shit up. If it comes out of your mouth, if you can imagine it in your fucktarded little head, go ahead and go with that. What are you saying? You're not. This is just so fucktarded.
It's all made out of stardust. It just seems to be that people are concept. You do this. I don't do anything you do, quite obviously, because my brain, even at birth almost, was capable of making distinctions between soft and hard and solid and permanent and impermanent and all these. It can make all these fucking distinctions. And when it came a little tiny bit educated in something, it could figure out that sometimes you play a game by feel, because I like the blue color, so I'll pick the blue one because I like the color blue. And sometimes you make decisions in a very thoughtful, methodical way because, you want to know the bicycle works, right? There's a difference between having a bicycle that works and having a bicycle that's the right color. And so, when I became 8 or 9 years old, I could figure out that kind of judgment call. Shit. So, me and you haven't had anything in common since I was 7 fucking years old. Makers tend to keep reaching for a concept that holds center stage. The one the
there are truths of reality, and all of them are, some of them are totally irrelevant, like, oh, what is the exact metallic structure of this aluminum nail? And some of them are vitally important to know, like, what's the tendency of a psychology to develop some sort of the psychopathic, antisocial, corrosive perception of, ego grandeur, where they will, harm people and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they're very different things.
One that soars above them all. And I don't think that we're ever going to...
And you don't think that you're ever going to grow up and accept that reality is made out of something, that the odds are it's not made out of something on purpose or brilliantly created, that the fact is the reality is just something that we're living in because we're replicating molecules doing this, molecular thing, a chemical thing.
We're never ever going to find that, because we don't need to find that, because...
yeah, right. You don't need to find that, okay? Again, you don't, okay? I think rational people need answers. They don't just sit there and especially when, like, if somebody throws you in a car from an alien planet or whatever, you don't know anything about what's going on, they just throw you in the car, and they make the car move, and it's squishing a bunch of little bunny rabbits all over a road. You're going to want to know, is there some reason why I'm doing this? I mean, am I going somewhere? Is there no way to put fences up so the rabbits aren't on the road? Is there some... You're going to start saying, this needs to be a lot better.
You mix things. As far as objectivity, I don't even think there is such a thing.
Yeah, well, you're retarded. You don't want there to be such a thing, that's all. There's no other explanation. How can you destroy a word connected to science, discipline, probability, clinical? I mean, it's dependable, rational, logical. It's connected to every good word there is. So why are you destroying it? Why are you running away from this sense that there's a rational way to play a game and an irrational way to play a game? That there's rational standards of function, like, the wheels got tread on them, is the motor safe, is it consuming the right amount of gasoline, and irrational ways, like, I like the color.
Yeah, like I said, it's really late at night, and I need to go to sleep. So I'll just leave you with that and stop rambling. All right.
Yeah, whatever. Maybe you ought to start thinking before you make a video, because this is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen on YouTube. I mean, it was just that fucking stupid. It's preposterously stupid. Even Professor Anton couldn't say something this fucking stupid. So, bravo. Stupidest video ever that wasn't trying to be stupid, or wasn't made by somebody stupid enough to make a video this stupid. I don't think you're stupid enough to make a video this stupid. Apparently you are, but man, stupid motherfucker. Alright, so let's go to this other guy. I guess it's just as wacky. Please respond. Alright, Hyperbolian Voyager. Oh, brother. So far, so bad.
Objectivity signify? With a concept like objectivity, I usually feel as though we mean something like the quality of being emotionally sterile, or the quality of being detached in some way. An objective point of view presumably amounts to a point of view divorced from primal urges, sensual feelings, poetic expressions, inclinations and prejudices of every kind.
Yeah, well, why don't you stop at the word inclinations, okay? Desire is the thing you're looking for, actually, okay? And what you're really looking for is the biological mechanism, okay? You want to segregate judgment from biological bigotry. We have biological bigotry. It's built into us to be bigoted to certain activities, to be bigoted to because we're animals at the core, and the animal has agenda built into it through the DNA. And then we have this intelligence. Now, the intelligence can be owned by those desires and just scheme to satisfy them, or the intelligence can understand that those desires are just animal, and that it can go off on its own adventure and analyze the world independently of the interest of this individual. This individual is just an individual. It's just a vessel keeping this really good thing, the brain, the perception, alive. And this perception has the freedom now, through vocabulary, through language, through intelligence and knowledge, to go anywhere, to see anything, to look at anything. It doesn't have to be a slave to your biology. Jeez. Durr.
And prejudices can obviously be done away with to some extent. I can rid myself of some of my prejudices.
You don't have to rid yourself of them. All you have to do is acknowledge them. Once you've acknowledged that you have a prejudice, it's really easy to avoid it. It's really easy to say, oh, there's prejudice showing up again. Shut up, Mr. Prejudice. It's that easy. Once you know it exists, you just tell it to shut the fuck up, and you move on.
With careful reflection and diligence, but what constitutes the objective world that continues to have substance, even in the absence of my awareness of it, even in the absence of my narrow perceptions, my bounded perspective?
Yeah, whatever that means, right? Oh, well, what is reality? What is it? Oh, yeah. So now all of a sudden, what? The world isn't round? No, yeah, it isn't all that mysterious and strange and bizarre. There's a reality. What a surprise.
Going to embody objectivity, whatever that might mean.
Yeah, well, who would do that? Who is arguing for embodying objectivity, whatever that would mean? That's right. No, what you would understand is objectivity is connected to the right answer. Okay, the right way to play any game is to play the game the clinical, scientific, probabilistic, right way, and then there's the absolutely stupid wrong way. Yeah, that's right.
I'll need to detach myself from my bounded perspective. But I can never detach myself from my bounded perspective because I only am my perspective.
No, well, that's just so stupid, right? So you almost had it where you said, look, we have feelings, we have emotions, and now you just said, that's all we have. You put them in their place, acknowledged them that that's what creates the subjectivity, and now you just said, no, we can never. You said we can control them, we can discipline them, and now you say we can't, that they own us, that that's all there is. No, that isn't all there is. There's thoughts, there's ideas. 2 plus 2 equals 4. I don't need to have any emotional attachment. I'm not profiting off the 4. I'm not getting more money because the answer is 4. I'm not getting any new jollies because the answer is 4. No, it's just the truth. And I have no self-interest in it being 5 or 17 or 192. There's nothing perverting my judgment. I can clearly see 2 plus 2 equals 4, and I don't have to have any subjective connection to it whatsoever.
The organs of knowledge only developed with the help of sensory perceptions. And my sensory perception...
The organs of knowledge. Well, can't you people ever just speak English? The organs... Oh, you mean your brain? Is that what you mean? The organs of knowledge? Huh? No, knowledge is made of two things. First, you have a vessel, a programming machine, a computer, and then you have the programs. Okay, that's the knowledge. The knowledge is the programs. You either have accurate programs, disciplined programs, reasonable programs, or you have chaotic, mushy, silly, phantasmagorical, purple unicorn programs. We know which ones you've got running.
Are only constituted as they are in order to facilitate the perpetuation of my life, in order to encourage my survival, in order to enable the navigation of this rock, this planet.
Yeah, we don't navigate a planet, so that is even more hyperbole. That is your name, right? Yeah, hyperbolean. So yeah, it's just a bunch of aggrandizing propaganda. Why don't you just call yourself Propaganda Voyager? Propaganda Man. Propaganda for the win. Right? Because that's all this is. This is just propaganda. We don't navigate the fucking planet. Okay? We've evolved to navigate little environments, not space.
Objective reality, ultimate reality, remains out of my reach and is unfit.
Well, there's this more stupidity, right? I mean, there's lots of parts of reality that are accessible to you. The periodic table, lots of facts have been gleaned about how things work. You could say plants have roots. Yeah, it's just a fact. It's not complicated. So there, you've got a piece of objective reality.
For my animal constitution. Antinatalists often allude to the so-called objective roundness of the Earth, as though roundness experienced conclusively amounts to roundness without experience.
Doesn't matter, okay? It's opposed to flatness, jackass. It's just merely a statement saying this is a more true description of reality. The world isn't a flat plane and you sail off the end and all that kind of crap. No, we discovered it's round, that there's a solar system, that there's a cosmos, that this is how matter is interacting in the universe, shithead. I mean, really, you're just going to sit there and break every observation because you don't like the idea that there's a truth out there, and that truth is probably, when you apply it to you, when you take the screen of proof, okay, what's been demonstrated to be reality, and you look at yourself through it, you see a hideous motherfucker. That can be that's your subjective reason for trying to destroy the fact that we have discovered elements of the truth, a lot of elements of the truth.
As though roundness constitutes an objective fact, and as though a fact could ever...
Yeah, right. As if a description can be more accurate or less accurate. Right? I could see somebody in the street and I could say they weigh 1,000 pounds. Now they may weigh 130 pounds. So obviously my statement is preposterously inaccurate. Or I could say they weigh 400 pounds. So at least now I'm getting closer. I've now gone from really fucktardly stupid to an improvement, a closer description of reality. And I can get closer and closer and closer to a perfect statement defining their molecular weight.
Properly be said to be objective. Human beings can certainly depart from this round rock and observe it from afar, from a handful of distances. But the notion of distance, my conception of my distance away from a thing, could only ever arise within a constrained perspective.
Well, what the fuck does that mean? So this is more Professor Anton Bibble-Babble. Distance within a restrained perspective. I mean, again, what does that mean? We can model the whole fucking thing. I don't need to go into the fucking solar system anymore. You can figure out mathematically what's happening, and then you can make a mathematical model, and you can make the whole thing move, and you can make it look at let's look at it from 500 trillion miles away. We can look at it from almost any distance now. We can synthetically see the Earth from almost anywhere. Dipshit, because we have knowledge of the function. Jesus. What is that phallic shit?
Consider a fairly simple
Penis
statement.
wars?
I have 2 bananas before me. Everything about that statement
You got them up your fucking ass. That's what you got.
is suspect. Under what circumstances do I encounter objects? I encounter an object to the extent that I see it. But
Yeah, we have senses. That's right. Oh, I mean, man, let's just make that all mysterious and weird and bizarre. That organisms that have to, little bots, little machines, that have to fight for survival, would, over time, through evolution, acquire things like radar and sonar and ways of detecting the adversary so they could survive. Oh, man, that's just too fucking weird. No, that's perfectly sensible. It's perfectly reasonable to expect. That's what our senses do. They detect reality. They don't detect non-reality. We have to live in a physical world with real possibilities and real probabilities and real inevitabilities. And those things can be understood. And that's why we have the equipment we have. The equipment is made. It has been designed by billions of years of selection for the best tools to be very good at accurately identifying reality. No point in shooting at ghosts.
In order to see an object, I must situate it in the foreground. I must fail to see that which lies behind it. I must fail to see everything else.
What a crock of shit. Again, what is this crap? I mean, there's tons of things we see in their context. We see them in their context. We can see an image of the Earth with the sun in the background. We can see these things. We can see an image of the moon with the Earth in the background. We can see these things. This is just a crock of shit. We can see things in context when they need to be in context, and we see things out of context when we want to see them out of context. I mean, when we want to be more specific about them and their internality, to use one of your phony words, or we can see it in its function. These are two different things. You can go two ways. You can go inside something, you go outside something, or you go just where it is. These are all choices that can be made about where you look from or what you're looking for. But yeah, I can imagine banana on the banana tree. I can imagine banana in a boat. Yeah, I can imagine banana in lots of places. Bananas and green eggs and ham and such.
I temporarily cast other things into oblivion. Similarly, as I read a page out of a book, I must also fail to see whoever passes me by. In seeing, I must also always fail to see.
Oh, whatever. Yeah, so focus is just, what a horror that we miss out on all of reality because, oh, I just saw the cat walk by. Ooh, so no, I didn't see that the house is brown or something. Yeah, well, I don't need to see the house is brown right now. There was a cat walking by. What is this? Why are you making this into something? This isn't anything.
This illustrates the bounded nature of my perspective. Only a bounded perspective could draw boundaries that differentiate objects.
Only a bounded perspective could draw boundaries. Bound perspective? What? What? Yeah, no, sorry. It's just more bibble babble. Yes, you identify things. Things have an identifiable character, right? You can even say this background. Well, the red is the red, the yellow is the yellow. You know, you could do the, obviously, I don't know why you did this perverted image of a banana, but for whatever reason. The point is you identify things that have a distinction, a distance even, you could argue. Whether it has distance from itself or whether it's the same. And we know that the checkers on the checkerboard are checkers, okay? They're not chess pieces, they're not something else, they're checkers. We can identify them. One is the same as the other. They all have the same function. We can put them into categories where we can identify them. Glass of water, we can identify it. We can call it something because it's different than the stuff that's not a glass of water around it. Duh!
I encounter objects to the extent that a mechanism within my consciousness sketches rigid contours.
Yeah, rigid. I mean, he's talking like, oh, it's horribly rigid. It's not allowing the banana to become a kumquat. Yeah, that's right, because it's a banana, asshole. It's not a kumquat. It's a fucking banana. We know the difference. It doesn't have to be a kumquat anymore. We can know the difference between smart person and asshole. And guess what? You're falling into the asshole category.
This might be a banana to the extent that it embodies a contrived essence of what constitutes a banana.
A contrived essence. See, again, now we're contriving because we dared to label that make a distinction between a dog and a cat. We're contriving it. It's not real distinction. It's not a real difference in chromosomes. No, we're just contriving it.
But I never encounter an archetypal banana or a standard banana because there are many bananas. because I attribute the same word to seemingly separate...
Oh, well, whatever. Yeah, there's different snow. Every snowflake is a uniquely structured thing. Well, that's right, because every single thing is made out of gazillions of little bits, and every single thing is going to be a little tiny bit different. But guess what? There's differences that matter to its description and differences that don't matter to its description. And no matter how much you play with this bullshit, you're not going to turn banana into kitty cat. It's not a fucking cat. It's never going to be a fucking cat. It's a fucking banana, asshole.
Objects. I have two bananas before me. I see a banana, but what...
Oh, this is like poetry now. Oh, barf.
What are the standards by which I label this object? The essence that encapsulates...
Properties. Properties. It has certain properties. There's a list of properties. You know what the fundamental one is going to be? Yeah, it has the right chromosomes. It has the blueprint tied to it that says banana all over it. This is the chromosomal profile of banana. Retard.
It's what this object amounts to must be distinguished arbitrarily from its surroundings.
Oh, arbitrarily. We can't do it by any kind of rational method. I can't tell the difference between red and yellow. It's all arbitrary. It's just made up. No, there's differences. Different frequency of light created by different textures and surfaces. These are realities. They're not made up. They're not contrived. They're not imagined. They're real. The distinction is real. It can be identified. That's what our senses are capable of doing. The senses you at 1 minute say are so glorious, and the next minute you say they're nothing, they're meaningless. Of course they're not meaningless. They allow us to make distinctions between sensible, rational, and stupid and fucktarded.
I have two bananas before me. I see two objects. I see one object, and then I see another object.
Jeez.
But under what circumstance?
This is like bad. This is like nursery school horror. Yeah, the movie, the fucking Friday the Nurse. Well, no,
Can I claim to have two objects? The word banana applies to each equally. I recognize the contours of one object, and I associate it with the essence of a banana. I then recognize the contours of another object, and associate it with that same essence. I bring them together. I conjoin their essences.
What is this shit? I mean, fuck! This is seriously irritating. Man!
I create a distinct and separate essence. Two bananas. But there are never actually two bananas, because this grouping, which amounts to a conjoining of imagined essences, is completely arbitrary.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, again, arbitrary. Arbitrary how? By the scientific method? An arbitrary scientific method of observation and dissection? That's arbitrary?
This grouping has no substance in the absence of my bounded perspective. I have two bananas before me. I must refer to a specific frame of reference.
I mean, I wish I had a fucking steamroller. I mean, damn, this is just so disgusting. There should be a law against abusing a brain like this. This is just disgusting perversion. This is the worst kind of molestation of language and logic. This is grotesque.
I must refer to the locus of my own perspective. It would make very little sense for me to say, I have two bananas objectively, because that which distinguishes the essences of objects breaks down in the absence of my bounded perspective.
Does that make any sense to any of you? I mean, really, there's actually people who say, oh, that just makes perfectly good sense. There's two bananas, but I'm going to pretend there's not for absolutely no good reason. So we don't know there's one planet Earth. We don't know that there's one sun. That somehow our bounded perspective makes us incapable of knowing, oh, no, there's a sun. It's in the center. There's only room for one of them in the center. There's only room for one. No, we can't know that.
There almost certainly exists a fundamental and enduring universe, even in the absence of my consciousness. There likely exists a fundamental and enduring fabric beyond me, or beyond my conception of what I am, but my bounded perspective nevertheless conditions and helps to give a coherent form to the world.
What the fuck? So you're making the universe now? You're conforming it? It isn't conforming you, retard? No, the truth is the world is out there. Our tools are made to model that. We model it. It doesn't make us. We model it. Well, it does make us. We don't make it. We don't make it. It makes us. And what it makes inside of us through the process of natural selection is a filtered perspective that takes all the crap out, all the noise out, and makes it possible for us to make the distinctions between the parts. Oh, fuck.
To return to shapes, I appear to be able to retain an awareness of this shape that I encounter. But at the same time, something delimits this shape. Something allows this shape to emerge out of its surroundings in the first place.
I can't imagine. He sat there and wrote this absolute crap. This is obviously something he's reading. He wrote this crap. I have 2 bananas before me.
The retention of awareness, the fact that I retain awareness of that which I encounter, allows the imagined essence of the shape to remain intact as I navigate around it, as I observe it from different angles, from multiple standpoints, and only after observing it from different angles and multiple standpoints can I posit an essence.
Could you be more fucking redundant? Who are you talking to? The brain dead? I mean, I wouldn't even talk to a 4-year-old in this patronizing nonsense. Let me repeat that 17 times.
But I must first delimit and distinguish the shape from its surroundings, which can only occur within a constrained perspective, because a boundless perspective
a boundless perspective. What does that even mean, a boundless perspective? It doesn't even mean anything. It doesn't matter. I mean, you could, if you make something small enough, then you can know it from every angle. If there was a quanta in the universe, and every quanta was just a domino, and that's all it was. It had simple dimensions. It was just 4 sides, well, 8 sides. It was just a little cube, and that's all it was. It was just a geometric object. And it had opaque, just flat sides, just everything else was really simple. Just that's all it was. Then you could know it completely because it's simple enough. Obviously, the more dominoes you have, the more complexity you have, because now you have the arrangement, you have the distance between them, and this now becomes an arrangement. Now it's more knowledge, more stuff you have to know, and then you get stuff moving. Then you have even more stuff to know. But to say that, well, of course we can't have an unbounded perspective because we can't possibly have that much information. We can't hold it. We don't have a computer big enough. Duh.
Never draw a boundary. And only after that can the retention of awareness, the fact that I retain an awareness of that which I encounter, allow me to deal with this object, to interact with this object, to live alongside this object. The whole process smells of biology. Biological imperatives underpin this system.
Oh, god damn. Yeah, right. This thing happens to be created by an understanding of mathematics. So it's completely outside the realm of biology. Almost everything about its construction and engineering is anti-biology and is completely scientific. Duh. The only thing biological about it is maybe the choice of colors on the squares, and you took the colors off.
Enables biological functions and nothing more. It merely has survival value. Only under these circumstances can moral feelings arise. Moral sentiments could only arise within a constrained perspective.
Constrained by an understanding okay, that it sucks to have a drill a hole right through your fucking head, and that it doesn't suck to eat a cupcake instead. Oh, gee. How profound. What a contrivance. I've contrived the difference between drill in your head and cupcake. It's a contrived difference. There really isn't a difference. That's what this fucktard is saying.
Moral sentiments nevertheless exist and correspond to various truths. Truth statements simply need to be contextualized. Thus, there are no absolute value judgments.
Right. So you just said truth statements need to be contextualized. Contextualized what? Outside the realm of reasonable. That's all you're saying. Yes, you can't have a moral statement because you aren't seeing the purple unicorns that I'm seeing. Is that what you're saying? Because I have a vivid imagination. Well, you don't seem to have one. Everything's in black and white and reduced color. But anyway, that somehow that we can't draw any conclusions. There's no fact statements. There's plenty of fact statements, and they're completely useful in defining a moral truth.
Truth statements. Of course, my notion of a constrained perspective only ever crops up within a constrained perspective, just as my notion of what I am only ever proceeds from the fact that I am. So also my notion of a constrained perspective only ever arises in the midst of a constrained perspective. Oh, man.
So this constraint perspective, again, is the fact that what? We can't know every molecular. We don't know every quanta. There's a zillion quantas in here. We can't know what every one of them is, and so therefore we can't know it's a Rubik's Cube. Therefore, we can't interact with it in any kind of rational, sensible way, or even any kind of absolute statement way, where we just absolutely say it's made out of plastic, it has colored squares on it. These are absolutely true statements. They're not going to change whether we dissect all the quanta or not. It's not going to change that truth. It's just the truth. But yeah, let's forget about that, because that would be the rational thing to do, would be reduce things to the necessary knowledge. Right? No, there's no such thing as necessary knowledge. There's no such thing as primary function. There's no such thing as the substance of a thing. No, it's all or nothing. You know every single quanta. You know exactly what every quanta is up to, or you don't know anything. That's just a pile of crap, obviously.
But my constrained perspective nevertheless feels boundless, because...
Look, the tires on that truck are tires. That's what they are. We have a word for it. It's solid. It's solid as solid can be. They're never going to become untires. They're tires. Like 2 plus 2 equals 4. You're not going to change the fact that that thing's a fucking tire. Because the word tire was invented to describe that thing.
It incorporates whatever it encounters. It never incorporates that to which it never has access. I could never properly speak of that which I never encounter.
Oh, whatever. Yeah, right, exactly. So we just make it up. You can't speak of the object. You can't speak of this object. You can't use the language we use to describe the different elements: square, plastic, little peel-on color strips. You can't, the engineering of the movement of the plastic. You can't describe what it is in essence, in substance, unless you know every single damn molecule.
Because I would first have to encounter it. And I could never access anything beyond the bounds of my perspective.
Yeah, the bounds of your perspective, right. All the knowledge you need to know. Right? There's no other perspective. There's just, the only necessary stuff is, the perspective is, let's have enough words to describe enough elements of reality in an accurate enough way to put things in their categories. Good, bad is just another category. Functional, dysfunctional, broken, fixed. These are all just categories, and we can put things in these categories. Ought not. Categories.
I almost seem to know all things, just as the cosmos seems to contain all things, and is everything into which it expands.
Now, what's the point of that statement? I almost seem to know all things. No, you don't. You're just complaining that you don't know shit. And what was that? It's just such a preposterous pile of nothing. Mush. Fuck.
With the retention of awareness comes the projection of awareness. I project possibilities. I speak of the not yet known. A word always corresponds to an imagined essence, an imagined substance, and words tend to be increasingly inclusive. A word like earth appears to be an incredibly inclusive word.
Inclusive? How the fuck is it inclusive? It's completely exclusive. Earth. It's a definite. It's like a personal name. It's like its name. Okay? There's the other one's Mars and Venus. They all have distinct names. It's not inclusive. It's exclusive. Only Earth is Earth.
Because the